That, that forms the dynamics with the postures itself.
Okay.
Okay, so human movement systems.
Yeah, human
I
movement.
never, I don't, we don't have that term, but at least it's incorporated there. The three is there: the muscular, skeletal, and the neural
Nervous.
nervous system.
Nervous.
So that's why we have impaired posture like this. So, movement, habitual postures like south postures would lead to impairment of the skeletal system, eventually leading to muscular problems, and then later on progress to impairment of the neuromuscular control.
Yeah.
So one impairment of one system, if there is any impairment for one particular system, it will lead to impairment to the another two system.
So either way, if it's the nervous, it would reflect or affect the
Either way.
muscular.
Yeah. For example, I have a spinal cord injury from motor vehicle accident.
Skeletal siya. So, skeletal siya.
This is
Nervous.
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 Spinal cord
Oo, there's
injury.
column din.
So it would lead to there will be no control of the muscles. There will be the muscle will not move already
Yeah.
Gulay.
because impaired ang nervous
Atrophies,
system.
atrophies.
So there will be no movement.
Yeah.
So that's why human movement system, any impairment of the three systems will leading to movement dysfunction. So for example, I have a very sedentary lifestyle. For example, so my work is nasa desk, always nasa desk,
Or
good for
work
long
from home.
periods of time. So I
Yeah.
I develop this certain bad posture, and then this would lead to muscle imbalance. One area of the body is tight, the muscle on this area is tight, and the back muscle is lengthened. So any impairment of the muscle length relationship, remember muscle length relationship,
What do you mean
naman.
by muscle length relationship?
Or muscle tension.
Muscle tension means
Relationship.
prolonged
Yeah.
position.
No, ang muscles have this very tiny microscopic fibers. So they intertwine together like this in order to produce movement. So muscles are basically a fiber, microscopic fibers. So it has a certain position. It has certain length in order to produce optimal force.
Yeah.
So if the fibers, for example, these are muscular fibers, if the muscular fibers are has no like the very tight, like no more gaps, the muscle cannot move further. So technically, the muscle is functionally weak because it cannot generate enough force. So on the other side, if the muscle is too lengthened, it cannot also produce enough force because
Loosen na kayo.
very far na ang mga
Wait,
fibers.
the first one is when it's too tight, it
Too
cannot
tight,
generate.
functionally weak. Too lengthened, functionally weak.
Weak
But if the muscular fibers are in the optimal resting position, the muscle is very strong, so it can generate force optimally.
So, basta di lang mo
mao
go
na ang
beyond the limit
muscular-
sa extension
Yeah,
something.
mo na ang muscular tension relationship. So if the muscle is in a resting position, it can generate optimal force.
Yeah.
So for example, this is for example, I don't have any muscular imbalance.
Yeah.
On the front side, my muscles are in a in a resting position, and on the back side of a joint, so this is a shoulder joint, the back side of the joint, and the muscle also is in resting position. So in this position, I can throw a ball as far as I can, very forceful. But in this kind of position, slouch position, and the front side is very tight, and the back side and the back is very lengthened, so I cannot throw ball more compared sa katong optimal or resting position. So basically, that's length tension relationship.
Length
Length tension relationship. So
or muscular tension relationship.
Yeah, basically talking about the muscles. So, so habitual postures would lead to impairment of the length tension relationship, and this length tension relationship will then lead to arthrokinematic impairment. So arthrokinematics.
Arthro.
Arthro meaning joint. Kinematic is how the
So
joint is
arthro
moving.
is the joint.
Yeah.
And then
Kinematics is
Cairo?
movement. Kinematics.
Kinematics.
Yeah.
Kene means movement.
Kinematics is the dynamics of movement, how the movement is.
Kinesics,
Yeah.
kinesics.
So science between movement. of the
Mm.
joint. So basically, it's the movement of the joint.
Arthrokinematics.
So impairment of the muscle length relationship would lead to impairment of the arthrokinematics.
Mm.
So basically, if I have a very tight front muscles and a
Mm.
very lengthened muscle, my shoulder joint will can position in this way na it cannot mm, impaired ang iyang glide, ang iyang roll. So with that, if ang posture nako kay inyong sigig ingon niya, so my humerus, the bone responsible, sa bone here,
That we're gonna go there in a bit
humerus.
because
Okay.
we're going to discuss what are these in terms of the the front side, which is called the
Anterior.
anterior, and then the posterior, and everything that goes
Okay,
around. Just to
mag-use na ko
familiarize.
mga terms.
Yeah, that when we're gonna start doing the terms. I think
Okay.
this is good that you start with that. We'll go by the basic terms
Okay.
so that we can familiarize also.
Okay, so going back, impairment of the length tension relationship will lead to problems with arthrokinematics.
Arthrokinematics.
So my shoulder joint will position this way,
Mm.
rotated inward,
Mm-hmm.
interior
Interior.
rotation.
Mhm.
So that's why if you have kind of slouch
Ganun.
posture, as you stand up, you notice that your thumb will turn inward
Mm.
normally.
So mao di.
If slouch imong posture, very rounded imong back because of this bad habit sa posture.
Inward imong thumb.
Ang sign din na is the thumb will go inward in a standing
Oh,
position.
resting dili mo
Yeah.
So that's one of the assessment, static postural assessment we see as a physical
So when you
therapist.
ask that and when you assess a person, you just let them stand up.
No.
Huh?
Di
Just
naman
watch
siya
them
i-ask,
right
just
away.
watch them. They ma-conscious, they get
iyan
conscious,
ang
and then they
obserbahan.
correct their posture. If
Right.
if I tell
Sakto,
her
no?
or tell them na I will assess your posture, they will correct their,
Yeah.
they
Imo lang
attempt to
obserbahan.
correct, yeah.
See.
They will attempt to correct their postures, man good.
So just glance at them when they're naturally under.
Yeah, basically judgmental sa
Sure.
postures. Yeah, we judge the postures.
I see. I
So,
see.
going back, no, impairment of the arthrokinematics. So, if round, internally rotated ang shoulder, that's the time na it's very prone to dislocations, to labral tears. Familiar with labral tears?
What is labra?
Labrum is,
The
it is
labrum.
responsible for, in order for the joint, the humerus, the
Which is
shoulder
here.
joint is a ball socket joint.
Here.
It is a ball, the humerus, and the
Mhm.
socket, the glenoid fossa, part of your shoulder. It's
Mhm.
like this. But the glenoid fossa is very narrow, very shallow.
Mm.
In order to deepen the groove, God created the labrum. It's a connective tissue responsible for deepening the fossa. Fossa is a kind of groove.
It's like
deep
the
groove.
mold thing.
Yeah,
in
mold.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why the shoulder joint is like this. Without the labrum, the shoulder joint is like this.
Ah.
So very narrow or very shallow,
Shallow
ang,
siya.
ang fossa. So internally rotated shoulder would lead to, if you are very active and you have a sport that
Swimming, for
is
example.
swimming, for example, or throwing activities like tennis or basketball,
Basketball.
it lead to labral tears. There will be tearing of the
What
collective
about
tissue.
dislocation? Pwede.
Pwede dislocation, very common. Anterior dislocation.
Mm.
The humerus will go pop forward anteriorly. It's very common sa clinics. So that's why any impairment of the muscle imbalance will therefore further lead to impairment of the arthrokinematics,
Yeah.
and then lead to
Arthrokinematics.
leading to injury.
Okay.
So,
Good.
going back sa terms,
Yeah.
so we have directional terms used to identify the structures, no?
Yep.
To locate the body. The reason why we have directional terms in order for the anatomist long ago to identify the position of a certain organ, certain
Yeah.
parts of the body. So we have a uniform terms.
Yeah.
So anterior, that is that refers to the front.
Mm.
Anterior, posterior, that refers to the back.
Mm.
And inferior refers below. Superior refers, of course, upward. So we also have caudal and cephalic area. Cephalic is towards the head, caudal is towards the tail, referring to the trunk.
Mm.
Extremities, periphery. This is the periphery, this is the trunk, this is the periphery. Periphery is the upper and lower extremities. And we have also the lateral side. Lateral is anything that is on the side.
Mm.
Gets wrong?
Lateral.
Anything that's on
Yeah,
the
for
side.
example, for example, okay, my elbow is located laterally on my
So it's describing anything beside
on the side. Yeah,
the
we have
reference
a
point.
yeah, exactly, reference point.
Side
So for
reference
example, my umbilicus, the reference point is the umbilicus. So the elbow
Pusod.
is located laterally. So gets wrong?
Yeah.
Umbilicus
Lateral
means
side.
pusod.
Yeah, pusod. Okay, a lateral is
Navel.
on the side. Medial is of course towards the midline. And what else? Transverse. Wala na. Those are planes.
The planes. Well, later.
What else?
Planes later.
So more itong basics, no?
So remember that
Superior,
again. With the where's superior?
Up.
Inferior.
Down.
Down.
Down. Caudal.
Down.
Towards the tail. Yeah. We had tails before.
Yeah, we also have tails now.
You
Yeah.
still have the
Coccyx.
tailbone.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah,
you still have
tailbone.
a little
Like
bit,
coccyx.
a little bit left, and then caudal, and then
Cephalic.
cephalic. Sorry, cephalic, and then
Okay, so
Lateral.
those are terms.
Lateral.
terms.
Yes.
Just for us to be reference, we use later on. But you don't have to be like a physical
Yeah.
therapist. Just
Para na natin idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
review ba?
And what else? Okay, movement. We also have movement, directional terms. for the
Terms,
movement.
planes, movement,
Okay, so we have these planes.
Planes.
Is,
and we have to
where-
know, we have to picture it out, how and why.
Okay.
Yeah, diba? Perfect BSB in San Arizona.
Katong kang Rex, katong planes.
Planes, yeah.
Oh, more yellow diyan.
Yellowish, because the sun
Oh,
is
yeah, the sun.
setting
the
man good.
sun. Oh, yeah.
What time is it now?
4.
4 to 5.
5.
4 to 5, yeah.
Still up, but it's just foggy.
Okay, planes. So
Yeah.
planes is where movement happens.
Okay.
Where the joint moves.
Nakaminaw di ba ni Rex?
Diba? Basically, more ng planes.
Yeah, yeah.
Asa mag-intersect ang movement. So, sagittal plane is movement going towards
Sagittal.
towards this way. So I can describe. So towards this way.
At the back?
It halves the body into left and right
Ah, I
side.
see. Ako na kayo doon.
So sagittal.
Sagittal. Mura ka gito nga.
Okay, so for example, this is kanina lang.
Yeah.
So sagittal plane is this way.
It's the movement forward and backwards.
So assuming it halves the body into left and right.
Catch you half. Duta na pa, ano?
Kung ano mo naog ng ginoo na totoo.
Time lapse. Time lapse.
So
So-
frontal plane. It
What is
halves
frontal
the body,
plane?
Halves the body front and back.
Front and back. So,
So
the
like
term
this.
itself, front,
Yeah, frontal.
you
Same
front.
with coronal. Coronal frontal.
Coronal
is just the
slash
same.
frontal.
And sagittal, frontal, and the transverse plane halves the
Transverse.
body into up and down. So like this.
So upper half and lower half.
Yeah,
Actually, it's more rotations, no?
yeah, rotations.
Rotation.
Kung saan transverse.
Transverse. Okay, so
Axial also term is axial. What is axial again?
axial is ikat, axial, more siya cut, and then you look on the bird's eye view.
Ah,
That's
okay.
axial. So when I cut my head this way, this is the axial view.
Okay. So it's not right to say axial or sagittal. Ah, sorry. Transverse and axial, no. Axial is
Different
another one.
axial, as far as
Alright,
I know.
okay.
What else? Okay. Movement from these planes. For example, the sagittal plane is your this is
Shoulder
shoulder flexion,
and then
shoulder
shoulder
extension.
extension.
So
Mura gid si
shoulder
Rex. Mayroon gid eh.
shoulder flexion is where moves the body into, for example, before we go to the directional terms, of course we have the anatomical position in order to
Important
orient
kayo.
our body.
Sige daw, let's do a practical work on the anatomical position also.
Nanay ko
need to-
Pwede siya example. Charot.
Volunteer.
Let's do
Volunteer.
together, let's do together, let's do
Volunteer.
together. Let's do together. So that we don't laze around, no? Sige, what is an anatomical position?
Okay, very simple. You just stand straight, stand tall, stand erect, feet facing forward, relax shoulder, head.
We discussed this, right?
I think
Also,
so.
first part.
Head is pointing towards the front, and then the palm should be facing forward. So basically, this is very.
Tadasan na.
Now, what can you say
Anatomical
about this if I do like that and then naturally my hands are like this?
Yeah, relax.
Is it
your
okay?
Normal.
posture. Yeah. Anatomical position is like
You're
this.
normal.
The
How
reason
normal?
why, in the medical side, the reason why we do this,
Yeah.
in order to orient the direction of the fingers, basically.
Ano yung finger mo eh?
Ano man,
Yeah.
kalit. Ano ra kalit.
I see.
Because in order to identify flexion of the fingers
Yeah.
or extension
You
of the
cannot-
thumb, particularly
right.
thumb,
Right.
abduction, flexion, extension,
Flexion,
abduction,
extension.
adduction.
Ano yung
Mm.
adduction?
So for example, if I do this,
Abduction, adduction.
yeah, exactly.
Abduction, adduction. So this is
Going-
flexion. This is extension.
I think, but nakalimot ko, malimot ko.
Sige lang, sige lang. Sige, but at least, at least,
Balik ko,
yeah,
takan
yeah.
ka na mga. Balik ko na.
Yeah, I understand
Masyado,
because you do that, it's already flexing my thumb, right? And then if I do like this, if the reference is the joint, right?
If the reference is the anatomical position, basically
Mm.
this is flexion, this is extension, this is abduction, adduction. Like same with the shoulder. This
Yeah.
is abduction.
Abduction,
Adduction.
adduction.
Yeah. Okay, for the flexion, it moves the limb towards. It elevates the
Moves,
limb
Like
forward.
oh yeah, also.
Extension,
Huh?
it
Moves like
moves the
Jagger.
limb backwards. Extension. So for
Okay.
example, shoulder, since it is a ball and socket joint,
Mm.
it has a lot of movement compared to the other bones of the body, other joints of the body. So
So,
it can do flexion.
shoulder and the hip.
Yeah, shoulder and hip, but referring to the shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah, flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, and we also have. So this is sagittal plane, the shoulder flexion and shoulder extension. On the frontal plane, we also have shoulder abduction.
And
Abduction meaning the limb is
Going up.
going away
Away from the body.
Abduct,
Away.
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 abduct.
Laging
Abduct.
kidnap.
Add.
Adduct is going towards the
Towards
center,
you.
going towards the body. So this is frontal plane or coronal plane, and we also have transverse plane for the shoulder. We have internal rotation and external rotation, or we can also do like this: internal rotation and external rotation. External rotation is the rotation is externally going outwards,
Mhm.
and internal rotation is the rotation going inwards
Okay.
or this way. Okay.
Alright.
So what else? What else?
How about the palmar?
Okay,
and
the palm.
Because we're still
this
on the
is
shoulder.
this is just the dorsal area of our.
dorsal means like the shark, but dorsal fin.
Yeah.
That's the rear end as well.
Rear end, exactly.
No?
So dorsal,
Wait, kung-
palmar. Okay, the same with the foot. Dorsal, of course. and the palm.
Dorsal, palmar.
Okay, what else? Dorsiflexion and plantar flexion.
Yeah.
Dorsiflexion is referring to basically the ankle joint. Dorsiflexion is when the feet is pointing upward.
Yeah.
Dorsiflexion. Plantar flexion is
So
the
when you
feet is
plant,
pointing down.
the terms, but like to
Plant.
plant. And the dorsi, it's still like the
Dorsi.
dorsal,
Yeah,
kind of like
it's
that.
just pointing dorsally. This is dorsal
Towards,
flexion. Okay, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. We also have inversion and eversion on the transverse plane. So,
this.
dorsiflexion and plantar flexion in what plane gani? It is on the sagittal plane.
Sagittal.
But when we talk about inversion and eversion, it refers to the transverse plane. Inversion is when the toes, the palm of the feet is pointing outside. And the eversion, eversion. So this is eversion. Eversion pointing outside. Inversion is the foot is pointing inwards.
So eversion is when you go from
May na ni.
like
Like
this,
this.
and then inversion,
Inversion is pointing towards the
and this is
side.
through the transverse plane,
transverse plane.
Yeah.
Basically, transverse plane.
not the frontal plane. No?
Depende sa joint because there are 3 joints, I think 3 or 4 joints on the foot, and the movement of the inversion and eversion is basically not the ankle joint.
Okay.
So kung ankle joint pa na siya,
Mm.
naa na siya sa frontal plane, but dili man siya ankle joint, ang joint naman here.
Yeah.
So basically na siya sa transverse, na siya nag-rotate
I see.
transverse.
So up till here, then dili din nga mao nga.
okay, pwede siya.
Pwede if we're talking about the ankle
Yeah,
joint.
pwede
no?
siya, but ang bones man gud din kay dili ra man gud isa ka plane.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, multiplanar
Multiplanar, yes.
ang movement. So dili ta ka-identify whether purely corona or purely transverse. It's a mix between the 2 planes.
Alright.
Okay, what else? Oh, knee flexion.
Yep.
So
This
knee
is the
flexion.
easiest to remember, no? The flexion of the knee, the hips, the shoulders. I think that's the easiest.
Okay, yeah.
Sige daw. What is a knee flexion?
Knee flexion is just like this. You flex the knee. Ang
Kanang babae
reference
nga may
ana
ganito.
is ang reference ana is the angle of the joint. Flexion is when the angle is shortened. Ay ni gamay ni lower ang degree sa angle.
Yeah.
Ni gamay ang degree sa angle. And extension is ni increase ang degree sa angle. So the same with the ni bigger and then ni shorter ang angle.
Yeah.
Degree sa angle.
Right.
Ni greater ang degree sa angle.
But there's a tricky part on our bodies that the animals would have bipedals man ta, but the quadrupedals do differently.
Yeah.
Is what? What is the go on? What do you think is the
Four-legged animals.
yeah
Ang movement silang dili kay parehas ang legs.
yeah that's the one with the quadrupedals.
Knees are usually bent the other direction.
Yep.
Yeah,
You notice that?
this way. Ano.
So
Yeah.
everything is like that. They go like this. They move like that. Yeah. So ours
Ito,
is
bali man na to ah. More
Wala,
yeah,
may laki.
Sila same side.
yeah.
Same direction dai. Same side naman.
So unless you really turn your foot like that. Anyway.
Okay, what else? Hips. So
Hips.
hips, the same with the shoulder. It's a ball and socket joint. So it has flexion of the hip, extension of the hip. You also have abduction, adduction, and rotation. Rotation, internal rotation. The knee is pointing towards the inside, towards inside. External rotation is the knee pointing
Yung
outward.
outside.
Okay.
I think that's the basic. What else?
Okay.
No, no.
Hips. How about the pelvis?
Pelvis.
Everything about
Okay. We
pelvis.
also have
How about the sit bone?
movement of the pelvis is also
Right.
dynamic.
Yeah.
When we walk, the pelvis moves towards the side. Lateral movement of the pelvis. It also have rotational movement of the pelvis, and it also have
Now sa tay balls. Na may balls diri di
rotation,
ba?
tilting.
So ito ko to.
Tilting. Like,
Socket.
ano, belly dance.
Ball and socket. Yeah.
Lateral
socket.
rotation, kanang tilting, and rotation.
Ano akong
What's that? Lateral
Mga na kamlak ka.
tilting and
Mga na malak ka.
Kami na
Rotation gamay ba?
live version di ba? Nanay mo. Namo po kanana.
Ano na?
Ano sa?
Di na nahihip sa nana.
Internal.
When we walk, bitaw, the
Oy,
pelvis
careful ka
movement-
na. Abi. There are people that
Oh,
really
internal.
awkward. Ah.
Na magani external mo.
Yeah. Wala ka ba? Naita maglakawan, di ba?
Di na may mga kimpi, ano malak ka.
Hindi na ba na sila?
Na malak ka.
Pinangga na ba na namo?
No, I know PWD, pero wala ka kay baw na inana because ana diyo siya magana maglakaw.
Award
Nasa
disability.
ikuan mo nasa ka na mga na malak ka.
Ano, wag ba ko? Ano? Yeah. Diba? You don't know ba? Somebody comes out of the house, right? Especially nowadays, pandemic. Who walk like this na ba?
Ayan na ni.
So,
Mr. Bean.
Huh?
Mr. Bean.
Like, look at Mr. B. Anyway, joking, not joking. No, the PWDs, they have coordination
PWD?
concerns. Good.
Persons with disability.
Bubuan ako.
These are now coordination impairment na good. No, this is really dumb.
Hanggang kanina.
Permanent
Wala may
impairment.
trabaho kung wala.
Can they still be trained?
Yeah, but optimal na ang goal is in order to achieve the optimal function nila, dili gyud normal.
Mao
Dili
ba?
naman na sila man normal.
Yeah,
Permanent
especially those that
disability
has the what's this condition where they really cannot stop, they cannot control motor. What's
na.
that?
Daghan.
Parkinson's.
No, not the Parkinson's. The
Tourette.
Cerebral palsy.
palsy. That's the palsy. Tourette's also.
Kuan man ano kanang dili makontrol.
Uncontrolled.
Oh.
Sa nervous na yung
Kanang
problem.
mga na mo na no.
But they sometimes calm down.
Depende sa type of cerebral palsy. It's
Yeah.
daghan 6.
Huh? Really? Huh?
Daghan type.
Ay, nanay term
Six
kanang
or
murag
seven or
voluntary something.
Mm,
Voluntary. Basta.
because some kind of like can still manage, but they're like that sometimes, and sometimes they're just
May mild, may severe, na ay movement.
Diet have a part of that, too?
Maybe this food take
Diet,
on
sleep.
part of it.
No, prenatally, the mother takes something
Agay.
toxins.
So, na
So-
possibility nga ilaglag ta sila niya, wasal ikupot ka sila.
Pwede. Pwede
Possible,
sa
possible.
mga chemicals sa
Or
food,
depressed.
baron, or something,
Kasi no.
like alcohol, or smoking,
Or na-depress ba ang mama? Pindi no.
I'm not sure. Basta mga tetragenic.
Huh?
Tetragenic.
What's that?
Sa ni term gani? Oh, di ko familiar sa term.
Kanang mo na ba? Kanang mo na. Kanang mo na ba?
Ano yung chichi?
Nay may nana kanang voluntary nga.
Tick.
Tourette.
Oh, kana.
Tourette.
Correct.
Yeah.
Tick. That's the tick syndrome, no?
Voluntary ba?
So
Alright.
where are we?
Where are we in your
Pelvis?
fun?
Here in Manongga.
Pelvis. So pelvis.
Joanna, may
Gumagaling
pagkasabi
na,
si Joanna.
gumagaling na.
Sila kasi no? Sila nagano sa iyo no?
Gumagaling na,
Kamo ha.
gumagaling na.
Benzo tanawa, nagbugal-bugalon na. Naging ano na, katulad na ninyo. Ha? Napakabait ni Joanne eh, kayo ha?
Takda.
This is
Sorry,
starting to become like
joke
them.
lang.
Sige ga,
Pelvis,
sige.
pelvis.
Sige ga.
Okay, pelvis. When we walk, the pelvis moves in all direction. Shifting laterally,
Lateral shifting.
rotation, rotation this way,
Rotation,
rotation
and
this way,
tilting.
and tilting.
Ana lagi ni mulak ko lagi.
May rotation din.
Di, even normal walking, normal
Lay
gait,
joke lang.
normal walking.
Exaggeration na to nga pagalakaw.
In order mo to transfer the forces from the ground towards the upper body, the pelvis should move in all directions.
Oo, di
Certain
magkano mga
directions.
girls din.
Dili, even just normal walking. So if limited
Lava
ang
walk.
movement, mo na nga mag-compensate sa lower extremities na mo walk this way.
Lakabaw lang ka mga varsity.
Varsity ganda.
Para mataas.
What they're doing basically is that they're stiff up here.
Yeah,
That's
limit
why
the
they-
movement sa pelvis. That's why mag-compensate in order to advance the leg forward, they do tiptoeing. Instead
I
ng
noticed
pelvis.
that. When I was in high school, I walked like that. Okay,
Yeah, that's that.
Varsity
everybody walks like that.
That's all.
Oh, varsity. Varsity. Na, varsity.
And then diba, there's another one like this.
Oh, kana para mataas. Mataas ang shoulder gamay man.
Yan na, kapuya na. Oy.
Dili nindot po
Walk
siya
like
para
this, man.
mataas.
So that we feel like our shoulders are tall, and then we go like if there's somebody taller than us, we go like this. We're the same height. And
Magpanila.
then like that.
Yan ka bot
And then we walk like this.
Taas kayo.
I could run real good like that.
Varsity walk.
Really?
On my toes,
Varsity
I
walk.
could run real good with
Yeah,
just
yeah.
barefoot, just
Wow.
only
They're
like
basically
this.
strong with this this one or
Balls, balls.
the flexion on the one.
Okay.
Yeah, if I'm going running, I could.
gastrocsoleus.
Gastric news, no? Or soleus, no?
Taas man kayo siya legs. Hulo, murag mo din.
No.
Murag ko
Oh,
ang
you
tanang
look like
ballerina.
a
Don't tiptoe, man! Come on, man! Come on, man!
Like wearing
Tell them your height, Tree. Tell them your height.
Ay, na yun.
6'3", shit, 6'3".
Do-
One-on-one
do-
with
do-
duha ba?
Nadulag hay ay.
Mag one-on-one with duha ba?
Bas ka full here.
Tapare.
Ayaw na lang pagkats, maluoy ka. Hapit na nakahawak.
Ikaw na. Ikaw na mo pang 5'5" mo, no? Daw mo duha, no?
5'5".
Mani Pacquiao mo, Pacquiao.
Di.
Ikaw sa ka?
5'3".
5'3" ka?
5'3".
Di, maganda, magug ka.
Dili, di na siya 5'3.
Nakas 5'4", brother.
5'2".
5'4", 5'5".
Taas pa ko mo.
Di na nasa.
Gawa yan, no?
Feel ako by 5'4 ka ba?
ka?
Feel ako 5'4 ka.
5'3" ka?
5'3 din ko.
Sakto rin, pareho sila katasaan, di ba?
5'4 ka.
Si 5'3 dia. Ikaw 5'3 ka? 5'2". 1 na ka, oy.
Action kinto, hay, anay.
5'1", ikaw 5'3 ka, 5'3".
5'4. I'm claiming 5'3
Ah,
and
imong hair kay
Ako here, oh.
Di taas mas, Vince. Bako lang, good. 5'5" ka, hindi ka 5'3".
Nito siya.
Lo, nito osyo. Oh.
Sa una kay, sa una kasi mo na mo ni bakats kay ano na siya ganito.
clearing.
Clear, man. Look at that.
Basta makusog ang hangin, mapalit sila. Dagan na nag-vape karon madlaw eh. Dito dagan nag
Yeah, the vapors come from here, oh. Kaya to, oh. Dagi ka, no?
Oh.
Vapors are from here.
Sago lagi mo, i-contribute.
Aya, you change your mind, you change your mind.
Oh, ayaw na. Pag uli hayo.
Is that an island out there you see out there?
Para ma-stabilize
See that
mo
little small speck?
Yeah. Lengthen
Yeah.
every
So,
morning.
that an island?
Pag ana.
Is that
Yeah, find the kanang pagtao ni mo ng pinakataas na part sa
Like,
bubong.
between where the
Up to
clouds,
na-
like the white area.
Ano?
Oh, we're gonna lose it. Ah, we're gonna lose it. Never mind. I can't.
Para murag ma-stabilize yung height pa.
Oh, para mas
Yung muscle mo manad.
Oh,
Oh, every now and then pag ma-conscious ka, dito rin kag bungbong.
musandig, musandig.
Di nakabantay na ko master, dili na ka siya bako karon.
Oh,
Mag-ana naman siya.
Unang nakakuha ka sa mo form. Katong mag-ana siya nimo because mag-ana mo gobyerno.
Promise master, mag-ana gid siya master. Asa ang kaniyang tangkugo, mailan ako maana
Kaya
na.
siya naka-improve ani. Asanas.
Asan na?
Oh,
Sanas,
Ah,
katong
pwede,
katong
pwede.
cobra og kanang mountain, kanang ana ba?
Oh, ang cobra sa jud bay.
stretch siya?
Stretch.
I know when I walk, I always have my head forward like this. I always walk with my head.
Yeah, because everybody's
Oh, nabako mo.
smaller than
Mag-ana
you.
siya niya.
You need to be,
Kuba.
you know, like, you need to be talking like,
I never walk with my head up natural. Like
Yeah.
I always have my head here.
Ano na straight akong back.
May ganun
Okay,
yung
next
feeling ko after yoga, mas
straight
matangkad ako.
true. Good.
Ma-correct man ang
your
kuan.
muscular control.
Oh, ma-correct ang
Mind and
posture.
muscle connection.
And by the way, when you do the lengthening works, kuan mo gud siya. The cerebral alignment. Diba you know this haya, the cerebral alignment does go a little bit out of kuan ba? Out of form. Kumbaga,
Cerebral?
every
Sa
the
joints?
vertebral con ba?
The vertebral con.
Sorry, not cerebral, but the vertebral. Yeah, sorry. The vertebral alignment pa. Because you notice, can you hold on, Juan? Subaya akong spine.
Tight man ang muscle, di ko kapag.
Sorry.
Maybe mag-flat siguro ka.
Pwede ka mahigda master.
ka para.
Pwede ka mahigda diri magkaob.
Nakaob ko? Okay, sige go.
Ito, yung kinis may jacket. Ayun. Ay,
Sige go.
Sige, ang hands ka nasa side. And then relax daw.
Sige.
1K ra ba ni master? Ang sesh. 1K ang sesh.
Nakay low back.
Gusto ko rin magbasbas.
Sugot ako luyo.
Ay, ako nag-massage, nag-feel ako sa
Boy,
Sugot
joint.
ako luyo sa.
Anong ginagawa mo, Hay?
Nag-identify sa vertebral position.
Massage mo ba?
Oh, kung
Massage.
hagbog ka sa quad board exam.
Massage ka na ako!
Tig-massage.
Mahalo na yung tingmassage.
Hagbong gaya. Karot. Ano din siya ino ginawa.
One take ako!
Ay, right today. Masahista na dato ko na.
Na-bike sa service.
Ano history?
Ganoon din yan.
May pain?
Oh, basta mo forward bend ko, mo na sila.
Kabalo man ko na, ikaw na bro. Ikaw na bro. Anak ka bro.
Ay, ganahan ko si Aya.
Ako lang pro ni.
Sugot ako
Ito
luyo.
na dislocaton.
Sa motor siguro na ginaga. Tawag yan sa motor.
Bubo gid imong right master no.
Bubo.
Ang right no. Taas ang left.
Oh.
Nakamot.
Mubo man na iyang right. 5'7" iyang left niya, iyang height. Kung dili siya mo lean siya sa iyang left, 5'7". Diri kay murag 5'6" siya diri. Diri 5'7" siya.
Gamay ra kayong parts.
Ma-feel na yun.
Oh, feel na yun.
Ay, di na lang mauwa ko sa kong parts.
Mga anatomy class.
Hotbox burger.
For military.
Nabi diri ang mga burgers, nagtapon.
Ma-feel na yun.
Burgers.
Ball.
Burgers.
Kag muffin. Kanin muffin. Mini.
Ano ko yabs pa?
Bagaw ko.
Bumalik.
Abs.
Abs. Gusto gani? Abs.
Yawa.